Get your hands off me. The words came low, precise, and dangerous. Then came the sound, the sharp crack of a palm meeting skin. The flight attendant had just slapped her. Every head in first class turned. The hum of the engines became a hiss of disbelief. For one full second, nobody breathed. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Dr. Amara Lewis. She didn't look like a CEO. No designer bag, no diamond watch, just a black woman in a cream blazer, sitting quietly in seat 1 ampere of her own company's private jet. That was the point today. Wasn't about comfort. It was about clarity. She'd boarded early, alone, to observe how her staff treated ordinary passengers. It took less than 10 minutes to find out. Nicole, the lead flight attendant, approached with a tight smile that carried no warmth. "Ma'am, this area is restricted," she said, glancing at Amara's seat as if it were sacred ground. Amara looked up calmly. "I reserved it." Nicole chuckled under her breath. "I'm sure you did. Let's not make a scene, okay? Back to your assigned section." "I am in my assigned section," Amara replied, voice calm but absolute. The attendant folded her arms. "Not according to our manifest. This is a VIP-only seat." Amara's eyes didn't move. "And what exactly do you think I am?" That's when Nicole's tone dropped its politeness. "Someone who doesn't belong here." Across the aisle, a security officer straightened up, waiting for a cue. 2 passengers pulled out their phones. One whispered, "This is going to get bad." Amara leaned back slightly. "Check the list again." Nicole shook her head. "You're done talking. Move." When Amara didn't, the attendant's patience snapped, and her hand followed. It wasn't force that made the slap echo. It was shock. Shock that anyone would dare. The officer stepped forward, voice rigid. "Ma'am, please comply before this escalates." Amara turned her head toward him, eyes steady. "It already has." She reached for her phone not to call for help, but to activate power. "Carla," she said, voice controlled and cold, "initiate internal protocol 3. Log every word, every second." Nicole froze. "What are you doing?" Amara looked her dead in the eye. "Reminding you whose jet you just assaulted someone on." And for the first time since boarding, the cabin went completely silent. The cabin was still vibrating with the echo of that slap when the cockpit door opened. Captain Reynolds stepped out, tall, silver-haired, unaware he'd just walked into a storm. "Nicole, what's going on?" he asked, his tone clipped, all authority. "She assaulted me, Captain," Nicole said quickly, voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. "She tried to sit in 1 ampere under a false name." Every passenger turned to look at Amara Lewis. She didn't move, didn't blink. Her phone was still in her hand, the speaker glowing faint blue. "Carla," she said calmly, "confirm internal identity check." A pause, then a voice came through, crisp, composed, and corporate. "Confirmed. Manifest name, Dr. Amara Lewis. Founder and CEO, Skylink Aviation." A murmur spread like current through the jet. Nicole's face lost color. The captain froze mid-step. "Dr. Lewis," he stammered. We weren't informed." "That's the problem," she interrupted softly. "You weren't informed because you didn't ask." One of the passengers near row 2 whispered, "She's the owner?" Another raised a phone slightly, filming, then lowered it again when Amara's eyes met his. "Keep recording if you need proof," she said, her voice steady. "Truth doesn't fear witnesses." The cabin lights flickered once. Every digital display on the wall changed at once, from flight data to a black screen with a silver logo. Skylink internal override. The passengers gasped. Nicole's ID badge flashed red and powered off. "What's happening?" she whispered. "Protocol 3, Amara said quietly. "Crew credentials locked pending investigation." The captain looked stunned. "You can't just—" "I can," Amara replied, "and I just did." Her tone wasn't raised, but it carried the weight of someone who had built empires without permission. Nicole backed up against the galley wall, shaking. "I didn't mean—" Amara cut her off. "Intent doesn't erase impact. You struck your employer on her own aircraft." Silence again. The hum of the jet felt louder now, like judgment in motion. Then, the flashback hit her 22 years earlier, standing at a ticket counter in Atlanta, being told, "You don't belong in first class." Same words, same tone, different decade. She had promised herself it would never happen again. "Captain," she said, pulling herself back to the present, "prepare a statement to corporate operations." I'll take control from here. Reynolds hesitated. Dr. Lewis, what do you want us to do? Amara stood slowly, adjusted her blazer, and faced the cabin. I want accountability, she said. And I want every person in this room to remember what bias looks like when it thinks no one's watching. Oh. She turned back to her phone. Carla, notify headquarters. Flight 909 will be grounded upon arrival. Replace full crew. Effective immediately. Confirmed, Dr. Lewis, the voice replied. The cabin went still. Nicole's eyes glistened, not with tears but disbelief. Amara sat back down, crossing one leg over the other. The engines roared beneath her feet, steady and loyal like power returning to its rightful owner. The jet sliced through the clouds like nothing had happened except everything had. The cabin was silent now, that thick, electric kind of silence that comes after a public reckoning. Nicole sat in the jump seat near the galley, pale, gripping her powered-off badge like it might start glowing again. Captain Reynolds stayed near the cockpit, radio in hand but not daring to speak. And Amara Lewis, calm, centered, looked out the oval window at 36,000 feet, her reflection steady against the blue. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Control was a temperature, and she owned the climate. A soft ping broke the silence. Her phone lit up again. Dr. Lewis. Carla's voice came through the speaker, crisp as ever. Corporate compliance has joined the line. You're live with Director Lang. Go ahead, Amara said quietly. A man's voice followed, formal, nervous. Dr. Lewis, we've received the protocol logs. Are you safe, ma'am? I'm safe, she replied. The question is whether they are qualified. Nicole looked up sharply. Please, she started. I didn't know. Amara turned her gaze toward her without a hint of anger. That's the line I hear every time this happens. I didn't know. You always don't know until the consequences arrive. The director's voice came again. Do you want me to terminate the crew officially? No, Amara said. Not yet. I want them to listen. She tapped the screen, switched to speaker mode. Her words filled the cabin like a verdict. This company doesn't need to hide behind slogans or training seminars. It needs truth. What happened here wasn't a mistake, it was a mirror, and we're going to face it. For a moment, no one moved. Then a passenger near the middle rows, an older woman in business attire, spoke softly. Ma'am, I saw everything. You were calm the whole time. She hit you. Another voice joined in, a younger man. I caught it on my phone if you need proof. Amara shook her head. Keep it. I'm not chasing clicks. I'm building correction. Nicole whispered, almost inaudible. I just thought you were lying. Amara's tone didn't change. And that thought was your training talking. You were taught to doubt people who look like me. The cabin lights flickered again, but this time, not from the system override from turbulence. The jet trembled slightly, as if the air itself were responding to the weight of the truth inside. Reynolds stepped forward. Dr. Lewis, do you want to land early? She glanced at him, unbothered. No, we finished the flight. Then the reform begins. She turned back to the passengers. You're all witnesses now. Remember what fairness looks like when it finally stands its ground. Her phone chimed again. Carla's voice returned, soft but firm. Dr. Lewis, the board has issued full authority. You can proceed with termination and review. Understood, she said. Then after a beat, but first, let them apologize in the same cabin they humiliated me. Nicole's lips trembled. I'm sorry. Amara's gaze didn't waver. Not to me, she said. To the passengers you taught how power sounds when it's loud and wrong. Oh. The engines hummed steady, and for the first time since takeoff, the jet felt lighter, like the weight of silence had finally found its voice. Nicole stood up slowly, her legs trembling like they were learning to hold her again. The cabin felt smaller now, the air dense with expectation. Every passenger's eyes followed her. Even the hum of the engines sounded quieter, like the plane itself was listening. I'm sorry, she said, voice shaking. To everyone who saw that. I shouldn't have touched her. I shouldn't have judged her. No one spoke, not even Amara, because sorry, when it finally comes, isn't sound. It's surrender. The young man who had recorded the slap lowered his phone. You didn't just misjudge, he said softly. You embarrassed her in front of everyone. Nicole nodded, tears welling. I know. Amara finally stood. Her movement was small, but it drew every eye. She took one step into the aisle, calm but absolute. Apology accepted, she said, but accountability doesn't stop there. Captain Reynolds cleared his throat. Dr. Lewis, corporate has confirmed they're ready to receive your command. She nodded once. Good. Keep the line open. Carla's voice returned through the speaker, clear and unwavering. "Ready for directive, Dr. Lewis." "Effective immediately," Amara said, her tone as even as ever. "Flight Crew 7. B is relieved of duty pending full investigation under Skylink Code 1-2. Compliance to escort and debrief upon landing." As she spoke, the overhead display flickered again. This time, instead of flight data, a message appeared in bold silver text. "Krief status. Suspended. Executive Order 4. Chinashtye." Passengers gasped. The sound wasn't disbelief anymore, it was awe. A woman whispered, "She just shut them down mid-air." Nicole looked at the screen, then at Amara. "You didn't have to—" "I did," Amara interrupted. "Because for people like you, lessons only last if they leave a mark." She turned back toward the passengers. "You all saw what bias looks like when it wears a uniform. But this," she gestured around, the quiet power filling the space, "this is what justice looks like when it finally answers." A murmur of agreement swept through the rows. One man clapped, softly at first, then others joined, hesitant but real. Amara raised her hand, and the sound faded back into silence. "Respect isn't a policy," she said. "It's a practice, and today that practice begins here." Captain Reynolds lowered his head. "Dr. Lewis, I've been flying 26 years. I've seen bad behavior, but never like this. If you'll allow it, I'll resign when we land." Amara looked at him, her expression unreadable. "No, you'll stay. You'll rebuild this crew from scratch, and you'll start by training them to see people, not profiles." Reynolds blinked, humbled. "Yes, ma'am. She turned to Nicole one last time. "You'll attend the same training if compliance allows it. But first, you'll sit in silence and listen." Nicole nodded, tears slipping free. The rest of the flight passed in a fragile quiet. The passengers whispered among themselves, but the tension had shifted. Where humiliation had lived, something steadier was growing respect, not for power, but for restraint. As the jet began its descent, Amara's phone chimed one final time. Carla's voice came through, soft, almost reverent. "Dr. Lewis, the board has asked for your statement when we land." Amara looked out the window, city lights rising to meet her. "Then they'll get one," she said, "because this isn't a scandal. It's a standard." The landing gear touched down with a heavy thud that rippled through the floor. Every passenger felt it not just as impact, but as punctuation. The flight that began with humiliation had ended with judgment. Captain Reynolds guided the jet toward a private hangar at JFK. Outside the window, morning light stretched across the tarmac, cold and pale. Amara Lewis sat still, hands folded in her lap, her reflection a calm silhouette against the window. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain said over the intercom, voice steady but subdued, "we've arrived. Please remain seated until instructed." No one moved. 2 compliance officers were already waiting on the ground, black suits, tablet in hand, the quiet kind of authority that doesn't need announcement. As the cabin door opened, a breeze rushed in sharp, bracing, real. Nicole stood by the galley, shoulders drawn, eyes rimmed red. Reynolds stepped forward first, his voice low. "Dr. Lewis, protocol teams are in position." "Thank you, Captain," she said. "You'll assist with the debrief." Then, turning toward the cabin, she spoke not as a victim, but as a leader. "You've all witnessed an incident that reflects a much larger system. I want you to understand this isn't about punishment. It's about precedent." A murmur of agreement came from the rows. Someone whispered, "That's leadership." Amara walked to the doorway, her heels soft against the carpet. She looked back at Nicole one last time. "You will surrender your badge to compliance now." Nicole hesitated, tears spilling over. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" Amara's expression didn't shift. "I know. That's what makes it dangerous. You never mean it, but it always happens." Nicole's hands shook as she unclipped her badge. The metal tag fell into the officer's palm with a faint clink, tiny, but final. Amara turned to Reynolds. "Escort her to the lounge. She'll debrief there." "Yes, ma'am." As the crew filed out, the passengers stayed seated. Some clapped softly. Others simply watched, uncertain whether to cheer or cry. Then a man near the rear spoke, voice firm but respectful. "Dr. Lewis, my daughter's studying aviation management. She should see this, see what accountability looks like at 30,000 feet. Amara gave a small nod. "Tell her this power doesn't need to shout. It just needs to show up." Carla's voice came through her phone again, the same calm pulse that had followed her all flight. "Dr. Lewis, board members are on site in conference room A, awaiting your statement." Amara smiled faintly. "Tell them I'll make it in person." She stepped down the jet's stairway, hair caught by the wind, blazer unmoved, eyes sharp with purpose. The compliance officers followed. Reporters at a distance raised cameras, drawn by whispers of what had unfolded midair. But Amara didn't flinch. She kept walking, measured, grounded. Behind her, the Skylink jet stood gleaming in the sunlight, its logo catching the morning rays like a signature of authority. The flight attendants who once questioned her were now shadows in the hangar doorway. For the first time since takeoff, Amara spoke quietly to herself, barely above a whisper. I built this company to reach higher, not so people could look down. The wind carried her words away, but the message stayed. A reminder that justice, once earned, doesn't need volume. It only needs altitude. The hangar doors slid open with a hydraulic groan, spilling sunlight across polished concrete. Inside, a dozen executives in tailored suits waited beside a long glass table. Their murmurs stopped the moment Dr. Amara Lewis entered. She didn't rush. She walked as if the air belonged to her, every step precise, deliberate, silent. Behind her, Carla followed with a tablet, compliance officers flanking both sides like an invisible wall of order. Good morning, Amara said, voice calm but firm. I assume you've read the incident report. A man at the far end of the table, older, gray temples, cleared his throat. We have, ma'am. It's unprecedented. Amara raised a brow. No, Director Lang. What's unprecedented is that it was recorded. He blinked, caught off guard. Of course. Carla tapped her screen, and a holographic playback flickered to life above the table, a still frame of the cabin mid-conflict, Nicole's hand frozen mid-air. The room went silent. I didn't bring you here for sympathy, Amara began. I brought you here for structure. She paced slowly along the table's edge. Skylink prides itself on innovation, but innovation means nothing if our people still operate with outdated instincts. Another executive, younger and nervous, spoke up. Dr. Lewis, the video's already leaked. It's trending under number Jet Justice. The public's reaction is intense. Amara nodded slightly. Then let's give them something worth reacting to. She stopped walking and placed both hands on the table. Effective immediately, every Skylink employee, executive, crew, contractor will undergo cultural bias reorientation, no exceptions. A murmur rippled through the group. Lang frowned. That will cost millions. It already has, Amara replied. You just didn't see the invoice until now. Carla handed her a stylus. Amara signed the digital order without hesitation. Additionally, she continued, Flight 909's crew will remain suspended pending full review. Their replacements will be trained under a new directive, Protocol 7, Silent Power. Silent Power? Another director echoed. Amara met his gaze. Yes, the ability to lead without noise, to command without arrogance, to correct without shame. A beat of quiet followed, heavy but not hostile. Finally, Lang exhaled. Dr. Lewis, you turned a PR disaster into a leadership model. Amara gave a faint smile. Justice is good business. Carla's tablet pinged. Ma'am, the media's requesting a statement. CNN, BBC, and The Atlantic are all waiting. Amara straightened, her tone cool and precise. Prepare one. 3 sentences only. Carla nodded, typing as Amara dictated. Bias my board quietly, but it never lands unnoticed. Skylink stands for equality at every altitude, and our silence will always be stronger than their noise. The executives exchanged glances. It wasn't a press release, it was a verdict. As she turned to leave, Amara paused at the door, looking back once. Gentlemen, she said softly, we're not just flying aircraft anymore. We're flying a message. The hangar's light caught the edge of her blazer as she stepped outside, where the Skylink jet gleamed in the sun like a monument. The scandal that could have broken her empire had instead crowned it. Because she hadn't raised her voice, she had raised the standard. By noon, the incident had crossed oceans. Screens at airports from Atlanta to Amsterdam looped the same 30-second clip. A slap, a pause, and a woman's calm voice saying, "This isn't your plane, it's mine." The world had found its newest symbol of restraint turned power. In the Skylink headquarters' top-floor conference suite, reporters crowded outside the glass wall like a storm waiting for lightning. Inside, Dr. Amara Lewis stood at the head of the table, facing her leadership team executives who now looked less like strategists and more like students. Carla placed a stack of reports in front of her. Media impact analysis, she said. 70 million views, 22 languages. Half the comments call it revolutionary. The other half call it impossible. Amara smirked faintly. Both are right. She looked out the window, where the skyline shimmered under the afternoon sunday. Let's talk about what happens next. Director Lang shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Lewis, some partners are nervous. They're worried this will define Skylink as a racial controversy, not a travel brand. Amara turned to face him, her tone cool but measured. Lang, Skylink has always been a travel brand. We just made sure people know where we stand when we travel. Carla glanced at her tablet. The board approved Protocol 7. HR is drafting the reorientation plan. We can implement immediately. Good, Amara said. I want the first training done by next week. Use the footage from the jet. Don't sanitize it. Let them see what silence can do. Lang hesitated. Do you really want to show the slap? Amara nodded. Every frame. Shame fades when it's hidden. I want them to confront it. Carla gave a subtle smile. Understood. A notification flashed across the wall, display breaking news. The headline, Former Skylink flight crew speaks out. We were set up. Nicole's face appeared on screen, tear-streaked, sitting for an interview. She's saying you provoked her, Lang muttered. That you wanted this on camera. Amara didn't flinch. Of course she is. When people lose power, they rewrite the story. Carla turned off the screen. Do you want us to issue a counterstatement? No, Amara said. We don't argue with noise. We respond with results. She walked toward the end of the room where a massive blueprint of the Skylink expansion project hung on the wall. This company started in one hangar with 3 employees, she said. We built fleets, terminals, satellites, but none of that matters if one uniform can erase decades of progress. Her voice softened, but her presence filled the room. I don't build to impress. I build to correct. Carla spoke carefully. Dr. Lewis, the president of the National Aviation Council wants you to speak at their summit next month. They're calling it the Altitude and Equity Forum. Amara's lips curved slightly. Then let's raise the altitude. She turned back to her team, her words measured like a captain giving coordinates. Ground the noise, elevate the message. From now on, Skylink doesn't just fly over bias, we dismantle it from above. As she exited the room, the reporters outside lifted their cameras, flashes bursting like small explosions of light. She didn't stop. She didn't wave. She simply walked through them steady, silent, untouchable, because the world had seen her calm once and mistaken it for weakness. Now, it understood. Her silence was never surrender. It was command. 3 days later, the world had turned her silence into a movement. Number Fly with Respect trended across platforms. Airlines issued statements. Corporate diversity officers quoted her in LinkedIn posts, like scripture. But inside Skylink Tower, Amara Lewis wasn't reading comments, she was rewriting policy. The glass-walled boardroom hummed with subdued urgency. Carla stood beside a new digital display titled Skylink Equity Initiative, Phase 1. Across from her, Director Lang looked uneasy, flipping through pages he no longer controlled. Phase 1 covers internal reform, Carla began. Bias reorientation, recruitment audits, and executive accountability. Every manager must sign a code of conduct addendum before quarter's end. Lang cleared his throat. Dr. Lewis, implementing this at scale will be disruptive. Pilots, unions, suppliers, they'll all push back. Amara didn't look up from the report she was signing. They can push back. We'll push forward. Carla handed her a tablet with a live feed. You're trending again, she said. Nicole's second interview aired last night. She claims corporate made her the scapegoat. Amara raised an eyebrow. She's not wrong, she said, voice calm but cutting. Accountability always feels like scapegoating to those who've never faced it. Lang leaned forward, nervous. Public sympathies leaning toward her. They're calling you cold. Amara looked up slowly. Good. Empathy built on ignorance is still ignorance. Carla tried to contain a smile. You've been invited to Good Morning America. Amara shook her head. No interviews. Not yet. The message needs to live longer than a soundbite. The screen behind them flickered, showing footage of Skylink jets taxiing at major airports. At the bottom corner, a tagline appeared, redefining altitude. That's your campaign line, Carla said. It's catching on. Amara studied the words. Keep it. But replace the imagery. Show people, not planes. Every story in this company begins and ends with someone unseen. Lang hesitated. You're turning a corporation into a cause. Amara met his gaze. No, Lang. I'm reminding the world that a cause built this corporation. Her phone buzzed. An encrypted message. Carla glanced at it first, then handed it to her quietly. From internal security, Carla said, you should see this. Amara read the message in silence. Someone inside corporate HQ had leaked confidential memos, emails showing that Nicole's prior complaints of misconduct had been dismissed by mid-level managers who wanted to avoid PR complications. She looked up, her calm returning like steel cooling. "Pull every archived complaint," she said. "Every single one. I want the names of those who buried them." Carla nodded. "How far back?" "All the way," Amara said. "Skylink doesn't sweep history, we exhume it." Lang exhaled, defeated. "This will get ugly." Amara closed the tablet. "Good. Justice usually is." She stood, smoothing her blazer, then looked out over the city skyline, the same sky her fleet ruled. "For 20 years, I've flown over clouds that looked calm from above," she said quietly. "But calm doesn't mean clean. Sometimes you have to fly through the storm to see what's really underneath." Carla followed her gaze, her voice low. "Then I guess we're entering turbulence." Amara smiled faintly. "No, we're entering truth." It started quietly, like most revolutions do. 2 days after Amara ordered the archive pulled, the findings arrived. Thousands of pages, hundreds of ignored complaints, dozens of familiar names. Carla placed the encrypted drive on Amara's desk. "They tried to hide it, but it's all here. Emails, voice logs, even surveillance timestamps. Some go back 15 years. Amara leaned back in her chair, eyes narrowing. "Who signed the dismissals?" Carla hesitated. "Senior management, mostly. And Lang." The silence that followed wasn't shock, it was confirmation. Amara had suspected it. Bias didn't survive this long by accident. It needed shelter. "Bring him in," she said. Minutes later, Lang entered the office, face pale but defiant. "Dr. Lewis, I heard about the audit. You're making this political." Amara didn't look up. "Equality isn't political, it's overdue." He scoffed. "You're turning this company upside down because of one flight?" She met his eyes. That flight exposed what was already broken. Carla stepped forward, placing the report in front of him. "Your signatures on 37 dismissals marked unsubstantiated, all of them filed by women or employees of color." Lang swallowed hard. "I followed policy." "No," Amara said. "You followed convenience." He shifted uneasily. "If you think I'll take the fall for—" "You already did," she interrupted. "You just didn't notice when the ground disappeared beneath you." Carla's phone chimed. "Corporate compliance is waiting for your word, ma'am." Amara's tone was even, decisive. "Effective immediately, Director Lang is terminated for obstruction, bias suppression, and violation of Skylink Ethics Policy 2.1. Suspend his access and secure his files." Carla nodded, tapping the order into her tablet. Lang's voice cracked. "You'll regret this. The board won't stand for—" "The board doesn't stand above justice," Amara said. Security entered. Lang hesitated, then lowered his gaze. "You're making a mistake." Amara turned toward the window, her reflection sharp against the skyline. "No, Lang, I'm correcting one." As he was escorted out, the office returned to silence. Carla exhaled. "That was overdue." Amara's expression didn't change. "So is the truth." "Oh." She looked down at the next folder waiting on her desk. Complaint 7C. Filed and ignored. Nicole Turner, 2019. Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed firm. "Maybe the system failed her before it ever met me." Carla closed the door behind them, muting the hallway noise. The office felt heavier now, quiet, deliberate, like truth had weight. Amara slid the folder closer, the one labeled Complaint 7C, Nicole Turner, 2019. Inside were 5 pages, an early warning, a formal grievance, and 3 corporate responses all stamped. Resolved, no action required. She read the first line out loud. Reported verbal bias by flight supervisor during international route training. Then the second, employee transferred. Case closed. Carla's voice was careful. "She filed this years before she hit you." Amara nodded slowly. "And no one listened." It wasn't forgiveness that flickered across her face, it was understanding, sharper and more dangerous. "How many Nicoles did we ignore?" she asked softly, before one finally exploded. Carla hesitated. "Dozens, maybe more. Different names. Same outcome." Amara stood and walked to the window. The city below looked impossibly calm. From this height, injustice always did. "She wasn't my first problem," she said quietly. "She was the proof we never fixed the first one." Carla's phone buzzed again, another alert. "Media's pushing for your response to Lang's termination. The headlines are calling it the Skylink Purge." Amara gave a faint smile. "Let them call it what they want. Cleaning a system always looks violent to the people who built the mess. Carla folded her arms. What do you want to do about Nicole? Amara turned back, voice even. We start where we should have years ago. She walked back to her desk and picked up the phone. This is Dr. Lewis. Reinstate Nicole Turner's employee status, pending review. She'll receive full back pay for the suspension and a direct meeting with me. Carla blinked. You're bringing her back? I'm bringing her truth back, Amara said. She hit me in anger, but we hit her first with silence. The line confirmed. Action logged. Effective immediately. Amara closed the file and placed it atop the growing stack of reforms. Carla watched her quietly. You know the press will see this as weakness. Ugh. Amara shook her head. Then they've never seen strength that heals instead of hurts. Outside, a Skylink jet roared past the glass, the reflection cutting across her face like a moving mirror. She watched it fade into the clouds and said, barely above a whisper, Justice doesn't choose sides, it rebuilds them. The meeting room was smaller this time, no cameras, no reporters, no audience. Just two women separated by a table and 5 days of silence. Nicole sat stiffly, her hands folded, eyes lowered. Amara entered without entourage, carrying nothing but a notepad and calm. When the door closed, the world outside vanished. You wanted this meeting, Amara began, her tone even. Now you have it. Nicole looked up, her voice rough. I don't know what to say. Try honesty, Amara said. A long pause followed. Then Nicole exhaled. I was angry. I thought you were mocking me, pretending to be someone you weren't. I thought you were testing us. Amara tilted her head slightly. I was, but not the way you think. Nicole's brow furrowed. What do you mean? I've spent years testing this company, Amara said quietly. Testing its systems, its people, its promises, and every time the results came back, the same bias survived the rebranding. Nicole's throat tightened. I didn't mean to be part of that. Amara leaned forward, not angry, just direct. You were part of it long before you realized. We all were. The difference is, some of us decided to stop repeating it. Nicole's eyes glistened. Why bring me back? You could have ruined me. Amara's answer came without hesitation. Because punishment teaches fear. I need people who learn from truth. The words hung heavy in the air. After a moment, Nicole spoke again, quieter this time. I read about the audit, about Lang, about the old complaints. I wasn't the only one, was I? No, Amara said. But you were the one who made the world look. Nicole swallowed hard. So what happens now? Amara stood, her tone calm but commanding. You'll rejoin the company not as flight staff, but as training director for Skylink's new empathy division, if you want the job. Nicole stared at her. After everything? Amara nodded. Especially after everything. Silence filled the room again, different this time. Not heavy. Whole. Nicole's voice broke just slightly. Thank you. Amara smiled faintly. Don't thank me. Just make sure no one else has to earn dignity mid-air again. And with that, the two women stood no handshake, no applause, just quiet understanding between two sides of the same truth. A month later, the Skylink Training Center buzzed with a new kind of energy. Not corporate, not fearful, hopeful. Rows of recruits, pilots, attendants, operations staff sat in a bright auditorium lined with glass walls that reflected the company's new motto, Respect Takes Flight. At the front stood Nicole Turner, no longer a uniformed attendant but the director of empathy development. She took a deep breath before speaking into the mic. When I stood where you are, I thought respect came with the uniform. Now I know it comes from how we treat the people wearing it. The room was silent, listening, not out of obligation, but intent. At the back, Dr. Amara Lewis watched quietly, hands clasped, expression unreadable but proud. Carla leaned toward her. She's good, she whispered. Amara nodded. She's honest. That's better. Nicole continued. This program isn't about policies, it's about perspective. We're not here to check boxes. We're here to see each other. As applause rippled through the room, Amara's phone buzzed softly. A notification. Skylink stock. Plus 18% investor confidence rising. She smiled faintly. Real reform had a balance sheet, too. Carla turned to her. You realize what you've done, right? You turned a scandal into a syllabus. Amara's voice stayed quiet. That was always the goal, to turn pain into protocol. Nicole wrapped up her address. There's one rule I want everyone to remember, she said. Silence doesn't protect you, it just delays the truth. Then, glancing toward the back, her eyes met Amara's. They exchanged a small nod that said everything words couldn't. After the session, as staff and trainees filed out, a young recruit approached Amara nervously. "Dr. Lewis," she said, "my mom watched your interview last month. She said you made her believe quiet people can still change the world." Amara smiled gently. "Quiet doesn't mean small. It means steady." "Oh." She stepped toward the window, looking out at the runway where a Skylink jet was preparing for departure. Its silver fuselage gleamed under the morning sun, the same aircraft that once carried humiliation now carried purpose. Carla joined her at the window. "So what's next?" Amara watched the plane lift off, rising clean through the clouds. "What's next?" she said softly. "We keep climbing." And as the engines roared above, her reflection merged with the sky, a woman who'd turned disgrace into doctrine. Proof that sometimes the loudest power in the room is the one that never needed to shout.